Welcome to Play With It with Cass Allen. Hope y'all doing okay out there. We've been in the dating pool, as y'all know, talking about some things, all kinds of things. Today, we're on the topic of dating when you live in somebody else's space or you dating someone who lives in someone else's space. Um, as we grow up, especially in this world and we exit parents' homes, a lot of people start off in a situation with roommates. You're three, four, five to a dorm, or you three, four, five to an apartment. All your parents done signed off on it, and y'all gonna do this thing while y'all in college or whatever. Y'all all living together. I know many people as I grew up, their first place was with a lover or a roommate or, it wasn't alone. It was people, peers, finding their grounding together, at least in twos, um, which can present challenges, you live with somebody and you want to date. Some people it works fine. When I was younger, it was so easy. And I usually had gay male roommates, so it was real easy. They didn't want my ass, and I didn't want them. My roommate and I didn't have those problems that some do when they like the same thing. I'm not even going to say the same gender because that's not even the qualifier anymore. It's when you living together and you like the same thing. You find situations where bisexual people sleep with both people in a house if there's a male and a female because they like both. So that's why I said I don't use that gender as a qualifier anymore. You know, if you like the same thing, if there's somebody out there that likes the same type of women that I like, I don't give a shit what body form you come in. You can have a mini skirt with 6-inch heels, bitch. I gotta watch you. Because you're looking at the same thing I'm looking at. And one day when I'm not home, you might get a little weak in your damn stiletto knees, and take my bitch. People take each other from each other all the time, and I shouldn't use that saying because, personally, for on a real tip, even though I was talking shit and having fun, you can't take anybody from me. First of all, I don't own you. Secondly, if your nose is like interested in another monkey ass, go on. Just let me know. Once you get that shit up in your nostril hairs, like you are infected with that monkey ass, whatever that monkey ass carries. People only use the word infected to describe when something funky comes out of the situation. But at the end of the day, once you get them DNA dribblets up in your nose and they go down in your system, that's a little part of you, right? I just want to know so I can decide if I want to fuck with you or not. It has nothing to do with jealousy or being mad at you. So if you're in those type of living situations, be aware of the people around you, not just what they look like, but what they like. Some of these people be scoping up and down your pieces as they come to visit you, and you be like, nah, that bitch straight. No, she ain't straight. Just the right butch ain't walked through your door that caught her attention, because when she does, she gonna fuck your girlfriend. And y'all know I'm having fun, and you know I'm telling the truth here. You gotta be careful about how you share space with someone who has the same taste as you. Not only from the perspective of possibly having some competition, but sometimes there's some jealousy. There might be somebody on a drought in the house, and you got a tornado of sexual desires being met in your room. In their room, you can hear, there may be a problem there. They may, there are people who, like I've discussed before, they don't want you to have any sex in the house if they're not having any. You got to be aware of that, depending on the type of living situation you're in, whether it's a roommate or is this your parents because they got more pull. Is this an ex you're living with? And that's what I'm saying. That's why I said living in someone's space. a number of reasons you're in someone's space, you know. Things went well. I got this great job in this new state, and they want me there tomorrow. So I'm gonna have to bunker down with my friend for a month till I get my apartment. You know, that's a reason to be in somebody's space. That's a good reason. You know, there are all kinds of reasons that you end up in someone's space just because it makes sense. You know, I personally believe that a lot of people out here living by themselves and wasting money. They got enough room for a roommate. Just find your compatibility and save you half your money for something else. I personally don't believe in having a big castle to myself with nobody in it. It's kind of like that Billy D. Williams with Diana Ross in the movies. What's the point of having all this if you can't share with anybody? You know, I've been in situations where I could just the world was just a magic carpet for me, and everything was just butter on my fingers and jewels, and you know, like a dream come true, like a yellow brick road. Like all this karmic shit was there was nothing to it. Had it all, anything I wanted. But you know, my home was empty of people. You know, that peace sometimes can come with a missing of people depending on the type of life you live, you know. So living in someone's space to me is not a bad thing. So I don't want to come across like, oh, I'm living in someone's space because times are hard and I'm trying to date and I'm fucked up loser. I don't believe in that mentality. I believe it's okay to have someone live in your space. Many of us, you know, have improved lifestyles by having someone around us. That's why you have pets. Sometimes a human is better for you than a pet. A pet don't work, you know. You want somebody to be around and y'all help each other out around the house. Take turns doing shit. Take turns helping each other. As long as you know how to respect each other's space, you know. Many people have spaces large enough to have two damn studios inside where you ain't even really got to see a motherfucker, you know, except when y'all crawl. You have each have a bathroom, you know, especially outside of New York when where I am now. So some of y'all are probably shocked to hear this stuff, but it's the norm to have more than one bathroom outside of this state. So people don't have the same issues that you New Yorkers have with one bedroom, one bathroom, and seven people, or two bedrooms cut up into four different units with one bathroom. Then you're all mad at each other. What the fuck you expect to happen? You know, that's the situation you're living in. So you really shouldn't be bringing a lot of people to the house. If you already got a lot of shit going on in your household, you know, it's not comfortable for you and the people you live with. Why do you think it's going to be comfortable for someone else? I recommend you don't bring too many people over unless they got the same vibe as you, because you will lose your mate sometimes over that. And I'm not speculating shit. I already told y'all everything I talk about, I've seen it with my own fucking eyes. I've watched women dump men like fucking crazy after going to their house one time and lie to them about why they doing it. They never tell them, nigga, I'm not coming back because you a fucking bum. They come up with shit. They're busy. They got something to do. And then they come and tell people like me what the hell happened on their date. You know, I'm one of the lucky ones who people gravitate to talk to about stuff. So I've learned a lot just from other people's eyes that I'm grateful for, you know, and that's one of them. Women don't like no dirty niggas. They might not tell you. Let's put it this way, unless they're dirty too, and I'm not being shady to you women out there, unless you like that too, when you come into someone else's space, you don't typically like that shit. It's a turnoff. I know it is because I've heard the story from more than one, more than two, more than three, and I've heard it over the decades. So I think it's fair to assess that's a pattern. You know, even if you living in someone else's space and you're sloppy, at least keep your domain of that space presentable for the people you're dating. You know, some people don't mind stepping over other people's shit as long as they know where they're gonna put their feet and their ass is clean. You know, they don't mind like swinging and jumping 2 feet over the hallway to avoid the roaches as long as they're not in your room. You understand? As long as you see the roach motels in your corners and she see the raid on your counter and the poison on your floor, at the end of the day, she's not going out there. Think about these things as you are out here living in someone else's space. You don't have to represent that space, you know. And at the end of the day, you can always get the fuck out. I talked about this all the time, even with myself. You know, as I got into my remote world and began to explore my own country, I started seeing people's spaces. I had spent most of my life, well into my fourth decade, in my home, hosting people, being a place, a hub for people, a place for you to come. You're on hard times, you come here. You need to talk, you come here. I'm your hub. And then I hit a point in my life where I wanted to get out there. I was in remote work, as I mentioned in the past, and I said, what the fuck? Why should I stay in the house? I can't leave the country, but I could at least go out here and have some fun. And I did that. I got my car and I've started hitting this country, and I'm probably nearing 35, 36 states so far, you know. As far as exploring it. So I began to see all the different ways that people live, and it became so fascinating. What's comfortable in someone else's space is not comfortable in the other's space. I began to see the things we laugh about in jokes. Oh no, hell no, my toilet tissue got to be this way. My butter got to be this way. My bread got to be here. I need this. I need a four people toaster. I go three doors down to say hello to the next neighbor. I need a two people toaster. It became interesting to look at how people's houses sometimes show your character. Whether or not you care about your environment, to go to somebody's house and feel like I'm in a barn, and then to go to someone else's house and feel like I'm in Modern Homes magazine, all in a day. To go in someone's house this morning that has a revolving fucking rod for their clothes in a closet the size of my living room and bedroom put together, to go in, in the afternoon to someone's house where got my knees together and a flashlight so roaches don't crawl up on me. Also in my years of selling home life insurance, excuse me, throughout Manhattan, and I won't say years because I did it for a year. In my year of selling life insurance throughout Manhattan, I was in a lot of homes in the city. That was so fascinating to me, because that wasn't my thing. I've never been one to go into people's homes. I've always been a hub, as I said. So I got to see how so many people lived. I had some funny times, some scary times, some, oh no, ain't nobody coming to see you. You'll never get a date. And some, oh my God, I don't even want to leave. If I was dating you, I'd be so comfortable type of things. So, even though you in someone else's space, as I made a point earlier, you can affect how you're in that space, at least the space that you call yours, try to set up a little privacy, even if you have a couch, maybe you can get a little divider to watch a movie if you bring someone over, everything doesn't have to lead to fucking as well. And it normally does not when you're someone's space, especially someone who's not getting any, as we've teased about in the past. It may be your parents' space, and that's just simply off limitations. Some of you are lucky to have parents that don't care, or you're in spaces with people that are not around a lot, where you are by yourself a lot. Some of you, unfortunately, in spaces where you got to go outside to get some time by yourself. But at the end of the day, we're being blessed with spaces, right? You got to respect that too while you're dating, how you play a home. When a date comes over, do you act like everything's yours when nothing's yours? Do you have any type of authority in the home, or do you maybe it's best you go in your room? What type of roommates do you have? you know, or whatever they're called. They're roommates, whether they're your parents or whomever. You're all sharing the same house. You know, what are the personalities? What is the personality of the person you're dating? Are these people even going to mix? Is this all in vinegar? Like, what the fuck is going on? Do you keep your people away from the people in the house, or you only have company when no one's home so that you don't have to be embarrassed? There's so many layers to this shit. As I said, you know, every episode we talk about one particular thing, but that one particular thing is an umbrella with so many layers, so many tiers. You know, what are the dynamics of the people in your home? Are the people in your home going to ruin your chances of dating? Do you have the type of people in your home that are disrespectful? You know, I've been in situations myself, you know, where people in a household have tried to create problems, you know, in my dating, you know. Sometimes you got to not just be aware of the house itself, but all the people in it, not just the person you're dating. You know, the person you're dating might come with a package, you know, and that package might have some ruffled feathers. You know, what type of space is this you're in? Yeah, you got to think about what if one day, okay, what if one day things change? You know, what if one day we switch roles as heads of households? What if one day these people are here? What if one day these people are gone? You know, how does it affect your situation? You know, do you have a plan? And is this our plan? Are we always going to live this way? Are you always going to have a roommate? And I don't care personally if a person has a roommate for the rest of their life. I don't need to be the only one in your house. To me, that's kind of stupid. But I do want to live in a house where there's an accord, there's harmony, there's peace. I don't want to live anywhere where I got problems with people, where I got to argue with your ass, where I got to constantly check you, or I'm trying to be quiet and not hurt your feelings because I'm trying to keep harmony in the house. That I don't want. I enjoy living with people around me because we look out for each other. You know, some people prefer to live alone, and that's fine too. Do your fucking thing. I personally enjoy the harmony of someone that I care about. It doesn't have to be a mate, it could be a best friend, you know, it could be a close first cousin or something like that. You know, because we can rock things like that. You know, I lived with a first cousin for a month, you know, just taking a little vacation in my remote world. And when I got there, she had two bedrooms and I had two bedrooms. She had a bathroom, I had a bathroom, and I had an office that she had waiting for me. So I could have lived with her forever. And we even talked about living together. We even talked about living together for a while, but you know, then I took another remote assignment a month later. I was out of there, you know. I was in my Jeep pulling out on my way to the next destination, you know. So, like I said, you know, living in someone's space, I don't see the big deal. You know, a lot of people out here feel like they got to have ownership. If everybody owns, then nobody's living together. It's kind of stupid to me. I think it's about fair contracts with people, you know, doing the right thing to look out for each other and making a space fair for everybody in that space. Because if that's what you got, when you date it and you bring your dates over, they're going to feel that energy. They're going to feel that harmony of that house. So, you know, I understand some of y'all got to, like I said, you got to bring people to your house with nobody home. And that's okay too. You get it in where you fit it in, you know. Sometimes, like I said, some of you are lucky. You got roommates in situations where people leave the house. So you got time to date. You be like, okay, my friend, he normally goes to the movie on Fridays, or you know, Sally hangs out with her girls on Sunday for 4 hours. So that's when I'm gonna invite my people over. Then you got those unfortunate people that live with people who never leave the fucking house. So you never get any time to spend dating because you never have any privacy. Um, I think that's a tricky situation for some. Me personally, you know, in my life, I would have no problem telling somebody, like, can I get some time to spend with my mate? Or, you know, I'm bringing a date over for 4 hours. Could you not knock on my door? Because that's what it's about. It's about being honest and me being able to live my life just like you living your life. But I mean, at the end of the day, you really just want people to already know this and do this on their own accord so you don't have to tell them. Some of you out there don't want to hurt people's feelings and you don't want to tell them, like, then get a do not disturb sign and put it on your door if you don't want to say it out of your mouth, because you need your own time. You can't let the people in your space always run your time unless you're a monkey. Are you a monkey? Because a monkey entertains everybody and never entertains him or herself. You got to take time in your own space for self preservation, self sacred space. You can't always be in someone's space in someone's face. And I, like I said, I can speak to all of this. I share space with others, and I make sure I take my black ass outside even when I don't want to sometimes, just so I'm not in the cogwheel of shit that goes on in the space I'm in, because it's important. If you always in the house, first of all, you become stagnant, you become stale, and people start smelling your energy because you never leave. Okay, I'm not gonna say people, I'm gonna say me because that's how I function. you know I start smelling the energy all around me when people never leave the house, or people never open the windows. There's a certain type of space that I like being in. Even though I like being around people, and if I can't get that in that space, then I'm going to go to another space where I can get the things that are most important to me. And like I said, if y'all move that way, then when y'all have people coming to date y'all, they're going to feel your comfortability, which is going to make them comfortable. But if you in a space where shit's wrecked, people can pick up on shit. They're not stupid. They can feel the tension in someone's home when they come to visit. You might think you're hiding it in your own home. People know when they're comfortable and when a place feels like home, versus I walk in your door and like, oh shit, I probably shouldn't have come here. Your senses tell you something ain't right. So while you in these spaces and picking these spaces to live in, also take accountability on what you're choosing. Don't go into a space that ain't got what you got, what you want, and then you complaining because it ain't yours. A lot of people out here like to come into other people's spaces and try to be the king and the queen of a space that's not theirs. That's what getting your own castle is about. So if you're gonna come with that energy, you can't bring a person into your house to date you, and then you're complaining about your own house, but you don't know why this person is not comfortable. You know. You can do that shit in your own house, complain about it, and then fix it. But if it's not yours, don't. And first of all, it's disrespectful to the house that you're in. Someone's allowing you to a space for your head because you don't have your own castle right now, for whatever your reasons. Or maybe you chose to share castles, but someone provided you with a space. If you respect it, that's going to come across to the people you date. People are not stupid. They watch everything you do. They might not say anything to you, but they see how you treat yourself. They see how you treat the people around you. And they see how you treat your environment. They see whether you give a fuck about your space. Do you wash your fucking floors? Do you wash your walls? Do you care about yourself? Do you care about your floors? Are there 50 mice in your house? I've been in places where mice and roaches ran abundantly, like they were fucking running through the damn fields, skipping carefree, no throwing caution to the wind with no fear of adults. That's not the kind of space I want to be in. And I don't think that's the kind of space you want to bring a date in. At the end of the day, like I said, as we wrap this up, it's not about whether or not you own the space. That's just karmic bullshit y'all put yourselves through to make yourselves feel powerful, whether or not I own it. It's about being in a space that's comfortable, a space that feels like a home, a space that feels safe. at the end of the day, everything we do out here is for other people, damn near in our lives. We work for other people so we can get a damn paycheck. We answer the phone for other people. Everything we damn near doing is for other people. So when you're in a space, isn't that like, shouldn't you feel soft and warm and comfortable in that place where you go at the end of the day? When you're tired of all the outside and you just want to come inside and have a little piece of yourself. If yourself is not reflected in your space, how can you expect somebody to come in your space and get to know you through your space? Y'all already know we in these with crazy riddles, and that's one for you. Don't we underestimate the power of the things around us, the people around us. We take it all for granted. A lot of times we get stuff when we first get it, it's like new, and we baby that shit. Whether it's a person, a place, or a thing, you wipe that fucking car down every 20 goddamn minutes when you first buy it. Don't even look at my car and get a scratch on it from your damn eyeballs. You got these mates and you licking their ass, when you first meet. Oh, baby, here's this a daddy, 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 daddy. You running around, you cleaning up your space, you making everything fucking perfect. And you pull this person in. What's next? Was this you? Or were you doing all this for that monkey ass that we talk about? It's important while you building these dreams and these connections with people to be your real self. Or at least say, the only reason I cleaned up is because you here. I'm normally like this. Else you setting up a facade. Because when I come here 4 weeks later and this shit is a fucking mess, I don't care whose space it is. I don't want to date you anymore because you nasty. And on that note, this has been Play With It with Cass Allen. Y'all have a good one.